Hello everyone. In this section, we are going to discuss about the diversity of living organisms. Now, when we look around in our surroundings, we find a huge variety of different type of organisms. For example, there are many type of plants, there are many type of animals, there are different type of fungi, etc. Along with this, there are many other organisms which we are not able to see, are microorganisms. But still they are present in a much larger number that we can even imagine. So all these various different kind of organisms which are present in our surroundings are known as species, and the number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. So this is a huge number of organisms that we have already named and described. So what exactly is biodiversity? Biodiversity refers to the number and the type of organisms which are present on Earth. Now, if we keep on looking to various new areas, or even if we explore the older areas with much more detail, we find different type of organisms every now and then. Now, there is a branch of biology which is dedicated to this type of study, and that is known as taxonomy. So, what exactly is taxonomy? Taxonomy is the science of naming, defining and classifying the group of biological organisms on the basis of their shared characteristics. There are certain basic processes which are involved in taxonomy, and those are characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature. So let's discuss each of this basic process of taxonomy in detail. The very first process which is involved in taxonomy is characterization. What exactly is characterization? Suppose a scientist, he's discovered a new organism about which he does not know. So what is the very first step that the scientist undergoes? That is, he is going to note down and describe all the characteristics and features of this organism. This step is known as characterization. In the next step, what the scientist is going to do? He is going to identify this new organism with any already known organism. That means he is going to match these characteristics with the characteristics of some other known organism. And this forms the second step, that is identification. In the third step, the scientist is going to classify this organism. What exactly is classification? Classification is a process by which we organize or we group anything. In this case, we are going to do that for a living organism. Now, in classification, we group the organism into convenient categories on the basis of some easily observable characters. Now, what does this mean? To understand this, I'll show you a small example. Suppose this is a group of candies about which I have to study. So, it would become more easy for me if I arrange them according to certain similarities. Now, in this case, the similarity which I found was in their colors. Therefore, I have grouped or I have classified all these candies into different colors. Now, it would become easy for me when I have to study about them or if I have to arrange them. Now, this is what is classification. Classification is arrangement of organisms or any substance according to some similarities. In this case, it is the similarity in the color and also in certain differences. In this case, the differences I used is the differences in their color. So this is all about classification. Now let's come back to what exactly is nomenclature. Nomenclature refers to standardized naming of living organisms. We will study nomenclature in more detail. Now what exactly is nomenclature? Nomenclature is the standardized naming of living organism. To understand this, I'll give you an example. Suppose this is an organism which is known as dog in English. It is known as kutta in Hindi or Punjabi. It is known as kukur in Bangla. It is known as kutra in Marathi and kutro in Gujarati. So we can see that in our country itself, this organism is known by various different names. So now if scientists of two different regions, if they have to come and discuss about this organism, they themselves will become confused on the mentioning of the name itself, leave alone the characterization. So here the role of nomenclature comes. What exactly is nomenclature? Nomenclature refers to the standardized naming of living organisms such that an organism is known by a single name throughout the world. This is known as nomenclature. Now in the case of plants, this nomenclature is dealt by the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, also called as ICBN. So ICBN has agreed on certain principles or certain criterias on the basis of which we can name the plants. Similarly, in the case of animals also, there is an International Code of Zoological Nomenclature called ICZN. So now we are going to see that what is the use of nomenclature. Through nomenclature, we are going to specify that the scientific name ensures that each organism is known by only one name, right? Second, description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. That means, if by this particular name, that is in the case of this organism, we call it Canis familiaris. So dog is known as Canis familiaris. It is the scientific name or the biological name of dog. And by the name of Canis familiaris, this organism can be recognized throughout the world. So description of any organism should enable the people in the whole world to arrive at the same name. One more thing is very important is that this name has not been used for any other known organism. That means Canis familiaris is the name of only dogs and no other species can be called by this particular name. So this is all about nomenclature. Now let's come to the next part. Biological nomenclature. What exactly is biological nomenclature? The word bi refers to two, nomial means name, and nomenclature refers to the system of naming. So this system of naming a organism by two components is known as biological nomenclature, and this naming system was given by a scientist known as Carolus Linnaeus. This nomenclature is used throughout the world by all the biologists. Now let's come to certain rules which are used to name the organism. The very first rule is that each name has two components. That means each name of an organism has two components. The very first is a generic name and the other is a specific epithet. So let's take an example. This is the scientific name of mango called as Mangifera indica. So the very first part of this name, it represents the genus to which mango belongs. And the second part or the second component of the name represents the species to which mango belongs, and that is indica. So let's come back to our very first rule, that is each name has two components, that is the generic name and the second component, that is the specific epithet. The first word represents the genus while the second word denotes the name of the species. This is rule number 1. There is another rule, that is the first word denoting the genus is always written in capitals, whereas the second word, which is denoting the species, is written in a lowercase. That means it is not written in capitals. This is rule number 2. The third, biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or they are derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. So this is rule number 3. There is another rule to it, that means when handwritten, both the words are separately underlined, and whereas when they are printed, they are written in italics. So this is a printed form of this name, it is written in italics, and if I write the same name, I am going to underline each word separately. So this is Mangifera, Indica. When I am handwriting them, I am going to underline each component of the word, each component of the biological name separately. This is a rule when we have to write the name by hands. Last, the name of the author can also be written after the specific epithet, that is like this, Linnaeus. The short form of the name Linn dot can be written after this name. This indicates that Linnaeus was the very first person to describe this particular species. So these are various rules which we use to name an organism, and the name that we give is known as the scientific name, or it is known as the biological name of that organism. To buy these books, you can go to www.cengage.co.in, or you can also find the links in the video description given below. Thank you.